Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back for another brand new video and we're here, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? This could be the last dance in terms of Champions League football and Rangers this season. It could be the last time me and thee get to talk about Champions League football and it could all be settled in the next 24 hours. Or it could be another step in the right direction as we springboard from what was a positive result last week into our first win at the weekend to where we need to get the job done tomorrow. That'll leave us just one step away from hearing that glorious Champions League song and, more importantly, bring us more of that delicious Champions League money that should be able to help Phil Clement in terms of finishing his in-progress summer rebuild and actually get him some players that he wants in the starting 11s. Guess which outcome I'd like to see tomorrow? That's right, I think it's clear it's the latter I would like to see, and I would like to see what this summer rebuild looks like once it actually gets finished. But again, a lot of that is dependent on what's going to be happening over the next 24 hours, which is why we're having another discussion video regarding this game, despite obviously breaking down the game last week. So to anyone that's tuning in and thinking you're going to hear the exact same stuff, because I know we spoke about this game about 19 minutes or something like 19-20 minutes last week, don't worry, we're not going to sit here and break over old ground. We know what this team is all about, even though I'd argue, and they certainly would argue, that they play a lot better than what they showed last week, and that was an off day for them, and more than that later when we get to the Dynamo Kyiv side. We're just going to sort of go over how they've got on, how they've responded, what has been their tactic going into midweek, because obviously they had a game as well, to see where they stand before getting to some really important Rangers news, including another potential injury, etc, etc, you know, the usual when it comes to Rangers. There is a hell of a lot to talk about what is a massive game already into the season. So let's get into it. Now, normally we call this the oppositional preview, but as we've previewed them, it's more of an oppositional update. So let's get updated on the old opposition then, shall we? And how did they respond to that disappointing draw versus Rangers? Now, I'm saying disappointing from their perspective because everything I've been able to find about how they felt, what the papers will be saying, blah, blah, they have been disappointed with getting that draw because, again, they were 30 seconds away from glory and getting another win despite not playing anywhere near their level, their words, etc, etc. Because again, this was a team in the previous round scored 9 goals over 2 games, including 6 in 1 and keeping a clean sheet and winning 3-0 away from home. The last time, this is a team that's used to scoring goals and playing attacking football, but it's just an off night for them, according to them, last week. So how did they respond to that draw? Well, they went into the weekend and they also went with a cheeky channel favourite 2-1 win, which shows, again, ladies and gentlemen, there is genuinely no separating us in Dynamo Kyiv from the 1-1 to the 2-1 at the weekend. There is a lot of similarities, but where the similarities end is the approaches to the weekend, as you'll see, 2 completely different approaches. You know what we done pretty much with our starting and probably closest to the starting 11 we're going to have versus Dynamo Kyiv, started versus Mulbelt, including bringing in 2 of our better, newer recruits in terms of Proper and of course Cherny. We brought them in, we started our guys, we were ready to go, but Dynamo didn't do that. Nope, they made it very, very clear which was the most important fixture for them, and it's quite clearly this game as they kept a lot of their starters fresh as possible to play us tomorrow as they went ahead and rotated. I mean, only one of the front 4 started this game, and if you look at every other position on the park, both defence, midfield and attack, the majority were actually rotated out, as only 4 of the same starting 11 that played against us played at the weekend, and 2 of them was substituted off at half-time, as Shapenko, again one of those guys that's getting up there, he's getting his name tipped for the Stars, started the game as he did versus Rangers, and he came close to scoring versus us. Well, he scored at the weekend from the middle of the park, got substituted off at half-time, along with Kabayev, who we spoke about last week in quite heavily detail because he's probably the smallest name out of them, but how he can terrorise a fullback, and he showed that versus Tavernier. Well, that was the 2, ladies and gentlemen, besides 2 centre-backs that started this game of football, and again the 2 midfield threats, if you will, were both substituted off at half-time, making it clear as day they are preparing fully for Rangers and they want everybody as sharp as possible. I mean, the team even rotated their number 1 goalie. That's how seriously they're taking this game tomorrow. And again, the only 2 players that played the 90 at the weekend actually played versus Rangers was their 2 centre-halves, which again, without sounding disrespectful, they probably need the minutes and they need the development to try and get a real chemistry between them, because I think if you asked any Dynamo Kyiv fans, in fact, I think there was a couple last week as well that was actually quite appreciative of the video last week, they talked about their biggest issue being the 2 centre-halves and everything like that, and that's where their worry is, and it's no surprise after getting into their information and reading what fans are thinking, that they went ahead and played the 90 minutes. But that's where you get them, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone else has been rotated and rested ahead of this game of football to come out guns blazing, in which will be a very unfamiliar atmosphere in terms of European nights at Hampden. But again, I do find myself wanting to pick up on that little point right there, because a lot's been made about us not being at home or our not true home game. Well, if we're being fair and honest, Dynamo wasn't really at home either, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I mean? That's not their usual home ground in terms of their familiar stand. Now, of course, they've played a couple of games there and everything like that. It's not quite in the same scenario as Hampden, but it's not their out-and-out home stadium. So, yeah, they'll be coming away. And the last time they did play an away game in a Champions League qualifier was against Partizan Belgrade, and they won 3-0. How? Starting fast, starting early, and going after them and grabbing some early goals. And again, if you saw how they've approached this game and how they've spoke about this game and how they've talked ahead of this game, it's quite clearly they're going to be coming for Rangers at the start of the whistle. That's why everybody got rested. And if I'm honest with you, that's all I've really got to update you on in terms of the Dynamo Kyiv squad. You know what I mean? That's how they went into the weekend. That's how they saw it. They still got the win. They still done more than enough to win with their backup / rotational options, but they're keeping everybody fresh as possible for this game right here. And that's all I feel like I need to say. We know the rest. We know the danger men. We know Yarmolenko's got an eye for goal. We know Vanat's going to run our defence racket and try and get in behind Suter. We know Kabayev isn't exactly the biggest name on it, but he had Tavernier on toast for a lot of the game last week, and the likes of Shaparenko and everything like that, who necessarily didn't have their best games in their actual careers, are always a threat and are always very dangerous. And again, they're coming to actually show us what they're really capable of. Now it's on to Rangers to sort that out right away, nullify that and show, nah, last week wasn't a fluke, mate. You just came up against Rangers, and there's a bit of a level between Rangers and Partizan Belgrade, despite what the media over there is trying to portray. But well, that leads us to the opportunity to get to the old Rangers side, and there is some things I want to talk about. Now, I think to save my sanity and a lot of the people's sanity that's currently watching today's video, we're not going to be breaking down. This isn't Ibrox. We're not going to have the atmosphere. It's going to be different. We all know it's going to be different, right? It's been talked to death. Everyone has said it. We know it's no at Ibrox. We've lost that advantage that we maybe have of the 12 man in the stadium and the magic that we can create. We know we've lost that fear factor because, again, Hampden is what it is, and that track sucks a lot of the life out, especially on either side of the goals. But I didn't feel like we need to keep going on and prattling on and on about it. Just like them, we aren't at home either, so there's no excuses for that. It's still blades of grass. You've got to go out there and do your job, and all I can hope going into this game of football is the likes of Clement picks a starting 11 that creates a positive buzz in that stadium. You know what I mean? No, oh god, no this, oh no, let's pick a starting 11 that's going to be positive with the fans and gives us the best possible chance to go out here and win the game. And then from that, the second that whistle goes, it's no longer in the manager's hands. It's certainly not the fans' fault. It's all the players' responsibility, and it's on their shoulders, both individually and collectively, to run their absolute arses off tomorrow, despite being handed a difficult card and everything like that, or a difficult hand that they've been dealt, whatever you want to say. We've lost this and this, but it's still a game of football. It's putting that circular object into the back of the net more so than putting it into our own back in it. Please stop scoring on goals, Ron Proper. But at the same time, it's on the players' responsibility to prove that they're good enough to play for Rangers if they are being selected. And at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, without all the smoke screens and the clickbaits and all this and this and this and this, if you want to be a Champions League side, if you want to be amongst the European elite, you've got to be able to beat the likes of Dynamo Kyiv, whether it is at Hampden or if it is in a car park. If you want to make it to the big dance, wear your dancing shoes. And that's what I'm going into tomorrow with the mindset of feeling. If we play to our level and play to our game, we've got enough to get through at least one more round. And as I've already mentioned right at the intro, it's not just the fact that calling yourself a Champions League side, that's the money that actually brings it and the lure that allows you to go ahead and recruit players and everything like that. Because again, the summer's been quite long. We've made it quite clear we've went to several players and they've just flat out rejected us, or we've had to move the old goalpost because of this whole Ibrox debacle and the money that's been bleeding away for the football club there. We've had to constantly move, constantly be rejected. But if you've got Champions League football there is a lure for players to say, you know what, Scottish football might be behind the times and pretty much behind every other league in the world, but there's Champions League football there. I'll swim into that and I'm willing to go there. That's a lure that you can throw into players, which is massive for the rebuild. Again, along with the money to help Clement clearly move forward with the progression in his summer rebuild, because it's stuck right now. He can't go any further right now with the restraints that's been put on him and players no leaving and clubs maybe no coming in for some of the duffers we've actually got. He's stuck right there, and to move forward, we need the likes of Champions League football. We need European money, and you know, there's been a hell of a lot of talk about Clement with this, and all the press is disjointed and all the systems no great, but is anyone actually paying attention to the games? Does anyone ever notice the problems in the 11 and the problems with the press and the problems with Clement's style? The ones that are clearly at fault and being caught out constantly aren't the boys he's brought in. It's players that's been here before that can't get to grips with the system he wants to play. And as much as Clement's starting 11s do frustrate me, especially when it comes to individual cases, you didn't need me sit here and talk about them. You know exactly who I'm talking about. When I take my frustration away and maybe my disappointment and maybe my heart sinking whenever I see them in a starting 11, when I move away from my emotions as being a fan and I try to use this a bit more often, I understand why ABC are actually playing, because there's very little else that he can actually do right now, as his summer rebuild and his Rangers rebuild is stuck right at 50%, if you will. You know what I mean? He can't move forward. That progression has halted, and everyone always comes in, attacks his play style and his formation and his style of play. But again, I can understand when I take my fans' heart out of it why we are stuck the way we actually are and why we aren't a fast free-flowing style of football, because Clement is a man that is managing a side that is stuck right down the middle between past failings brought in from failing sacked managers and the future that he's trying to bring in with the players he's brought in over the last 6 to 8 months. That's where we are as a team. He is managing a squad right down the middle that's broken in half between past failings and the future players that he actually wants, and he's got no manoeuvrability to move either way, unless he possibly gets a Champions League, unless someone comes in for that and starts tipping the scale, because right now it's like that, and that's why for me we are a bit disjointed at time and look as badly as we do, and why we can have a second half the way we did versus Motherwell, despite it being early on in the season, whatever excuses people want to use. No, we've seen that performance before. We saw it the last 3 months of last season when we lose a couple individual key players and have to dig in to the old suitcase, if you will, and bring out others. The drop in quality is frightening, and that's quite clearly something Clement's trying to fix with the squad, bringing in these young laddies, trying to develop. But we know he's not had the centre mid that he actually wanted. We know he never got the centre half maybe he wanted to actually sit with proper. We know he's not had everything he wants so far, so I feel like we need to remember that when we do get frustrated. But again, all of this can be helped, not solved, not fixed. I'm not saying it changes everything, but it can certainly be helped if we can just get over the line tomorrow and live to fight another day when it comes to Champions League football. Because I would love to see this laddie, given the way he talks about his club and defends his club, if he can get the opportunity to get the actual team he wants out there, rather than having 5-6 players he wants and having to rely on the other 4-5 that's been here before and who aren't good enough. And that kind of leads me where I want to go next in terms of Cherny, because again I'm feeling a lot more optimistic than I was last week going into the game versus Dynamo Kyiv, because we all talked about needing a spark. He provided that with that wonderful assist, which was scored brilliantly by Dessers, by the way. And then in Motherwell, again, he was involved in everything positive for the football club, and I think it backs up what we just talked about. That's someone Clement's brought in to the football club, and look how much he's standing out against what then replaces him in terms of the second half, and how much it actually drops off a freaking cliff. You know what I mean? I can only hope now that he's further on in terms of his development, that again we can play better for longer, as we played 45 minutes, really good stuff versus Motherwell. Hopefully that lasts a little bit longer. Hopefully Cherny and everything can remain on the park a little bit longer as well, because that will give us more quality in the right areas, and it should keep this Dynamo Kyiv press and the Dynamo Kyiv backline that does like to push a hell of a lot forward. Actually gives them something to think about, because no disrespect to wee Ross or Scotty Wright or anything like that, but Cherny starting there is a completely different perspective and threat to actually have, and it gives something to the fullbacks that love to go walkies, something to actually think about, as they'll no be able to come out gun blazing, they'll no be able to pile pressure if they've actually got something to worry about. If we do start the tried and unfortunately not successful pairing we've tried many times over the last year and a bit, then yeah, they will be able to come to their game plan, which is to come out firing at Hampden and try and quiet the crowd, turn it early and make it a Dynamo Kyiv day. But if we start with our best players, they might just go, oh wait a minute, we've got Sahani Hink about. But again, it's going to be a big call by Clement. Does he roll the dice again with Cherny? I certainly hope he does. And again, Robin has to remain in the back line. I think that speaks for itself. The left wing position is obviously going to be one that is up for discussion, and for me it's going to be one I think we should all mentally prepare ourselves to see the likes of Scott Wright starting in the game. And I think of that because again Cortez is injured and Rabi's not really done much when he's been able to come into these games. He's not shown any real quality so far this season, so again his hands are tied. What does he actually go with here? Now you could argue Scott Wright's been just as poor as Rabi, and that's a fair argument if you want to have that, but he seems to trust what Scotty can do, and I think he knows he can put Scotty on for 45 minutes, withdraw him, and it doesn't make too many headlines as everyone actually expects it. So you might see Scotty Wright starting at the left wing tomorrow and get substituted off at half time again for the likes of Hefty, and I know that brings a big conversation point for a lot of people in the comments. Why don't we just play Hefty from the actual start? He's got a wee bit of Sahan, and the only thing I can think of, ladies and gentlemen, is Clement doesn't want to risk starting his only 2 fit left backs, or only 2 left backs in total by the way, in the one game to start. You know what I mean? We never saw it versus Motherwell, but this is a bit more of a risk, so I actually can see Hefty coming in the second half if we actually require, because again, we didn't have much luck with injuries, especially in fin departments and positions in the park, but I feel like if we are desperately needing a spark, if we are maybe behind or we are chasing a goal, I can see him bringing Hefty off the actual bench. But again, if he starts him, whew, that's some balls for your Clement, and I would like to see a ballsy starting 11, but again I think he'll go for the more tactical approach, so I prepare for Scotty. And the last little thing that we need to talk about before we actually really get to the injuries and finish up with the prediction is the problem with Leon Balogun. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't train today and he is a major doubt for the game tomorrow, which shouldn't be a real surprise, unfortunately, to everyone. And this was something that I talked about last week, but I feel like people jumped on a lot of the age thing. See, when I talk about 36-year-old Leon Balogun, 36-year-old emergency backup Leon Balogun, is he the best defender besides possibly Robin if he can get up to speed and really show what he's got? Yeah, he is the best. But what's the worst thing about Leon Balogun, it's his reliability in terms of his availability, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's no reliability on the park. He'll give you absolute everything. It's just getting the big man on there. He can't play 2 games in a row. That's why when he was a success at this football club previously, it was him coming in for a game, then it was Hollander. Him coming in for a game, then it was Hollander. It was that rotation that allowed Balogun to remain fit. Whenever we rely on him too much to actually play, he's always struggled. And again, that's when the age comes in. You're talking about a guy that struggled when he was 30, 31, 32, blah, 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 throughout his career. You're now talking about 36, getting to the older side. I know Weir was a unicorn when it came to that, but there is stark differences. Leon's never been able to play consecutive games really in a Rangers shirt, and unfortunately it's up for grabs once again. Now again, I would love if we could play Robin and Leon in this game. That would make my life complete, as Suter is continually getting worse as it's getting now that he's not got Goldson to take all the flack for him. And aye, I would love it, but for me, again, I prepare for maybe Robin and Suter, and I can only hope that partnership grows and shows a wee bit of Sahan, as Vanat, again, is one that likes to spin in behind, so Suter's pace could be very vital, and I'll keep everything. Big Soapy is on his game. And the last little update we need to do regarding the squad is Igamani, as Clement has confirmed that he is stepping up his training. He's getting closer to training with the first team. He's doing partial this, partial that, and he's doing interesting things with the football. I'm not getting it, you know what I mean? As Champions League qualifier, one of our summer signings are sitting juggling at Auchenhowie. I'm moving on. Fate, ladies and gentlemen, it is a weird one, but again, it's a step in the right direction from the young man, so hopefully we see him very soon, as he's still learning the language, which I imagine is probably the biggest reason why we've not seen him integrated properly yet, or seen him being a part of it, as he's still learning the language. Nisala is obviously fully fit and ready to go. If he is selecting, hell, that would be a ballsy call to start him at centre-back with the likes, say, Robin, but again, that would be a huge call by Phil Clement, which I can't see him doing just yet, ladies and gentlemen. But everyone else remains the exact same. Obviously, Raskin is still injured and Cortez is injured. Everyone else is good to go. Now the reins are over to you guys down in the comments section below. I would love to know your predictions ahead of this game, what you would like to see, who would you like to see. Does Sterling start at right back to help limit the likes of Kyiv, or do you put in the middle of the park beside Connor Barron and maybe use the legs of Diamande, or do you roll Lawrence's ability with the ball rather than what he can do actually off it? There's a lot of conversation points. What is a massive game, and hopefully I've expressed that enough, how big and important this game is for our football club this season. If we're going to have success, I feel like we need to get past this step right here and bring in that money, bring in that lure to allow Clement to build what he is trying to build. And that's it. Regarding predictions, I'm going for the channel favourite again. You know what I mean? It was silly of me to forget the channel favourite going into Hampden at the weekend. I won't do it right now. I'm going Rangers 2. Dynamo 1. I believe Dessers again is going to be the vital difference maker, and I can only hope that remains 24 hours or just over 24 hours until the game kicks off. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you after the game. I'll see you down in the comments section below tonight. And until then, I've been Siege92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and bye-bye.